how does Donald Trump move forward and bring this country together?
Well, Joe, thank you. And thank you, Mika, for the congratulations. It was a euphoric night, and I am very happy that President-elect Trump started his victory speech last night saying he'd like to bind...
By the way, that's the first time you've been at a loss for words.
That's right. It's just so exciting.
Even you have to be shocked by what happened last night, the degree of it.
We're really excited. We saw it coming for a few weeks. I tried to say that on different programs, but I think people had conclusions in search of evidence and somehow believe if everybody just keeps saying the same thing that somehow it becomes true. I mean, what we tried to do here was listen to the people and not reflect our own opinions onto them. I think this is a real victory for the people, Joe. The forgotten man, the forgotten woman, they would come out, tens of thousands of them at rallies. People would say rallies don't matter. Then they came out, you know, by the millions to the polls. I think they really believe he'll be their voice. And I'm so happy last night that after Secretary Clinton called Mr. Trump and he took to the stage, that he really talked about unifying and healing the country and being, quote, a president of all Americans, and that includes those who didn't vote for him. Your point about Obamacare is precisely right. I lived through the 2010 and 2014 elections where Obamacare was really the best issue that helped Republicans win the majorities in both of those off-year elections. And we always knew come October, people would be clicking on their computers or opening their mailboxes and getting notices of increased premiums. And for a lot of Americans and small business owners, it's been a really tough road for them. They have to choose between other consumables, other crushing parts of everyday affordability, and their health insurance. And I don't think, I was surprised that I thought if Secretary Clinton could come up with a really good plan where she either owned Obamacare or tried to go towards the Bernie Sanders view, she would have been better than just waging this negative campaign. I frankly thought it was a tactical mistake, but we're happy it benefited us.
Kellyanne, I understand the president has invited the president-elect, Trump, to meet him at the White House. That's tomorrow, on November 10th, to start updating him on the transition. Tell us what that phone call was like with President Obama and the conversation with Hillary Clinton. Can you give us any insight?
Sure. So we went over to the Hilton, Mika, as we had planned to after 2 a.m. And our intention was to do what we had done throughout the night, which is to watch the returns and wait for the races to be called in the remaining states and eventually to announce the next president-elect of the United States. And as we were getting ready to do that backstage, my phone rang and I handed it to Mr. Trump, and he had a very gracious, very warm conversation with Secretary Clinton. It lasted about a minute, and they commended each other for a hard-fought campaign. I heard his end of it, where he told her she's tough and smart, things that he has said many times before, and I know she congratulated him on his victory. He took to the stage, he gave his speech, a fabulous, tremendous speech, frankly, and then later on in the wee hours of the night, he and President Obama had a conversation. Mr. Trump looks forward to getting down to Washington and meeting with President Obama, who we know will continue to be a leader as the nation comes together.
Kellyanne, go ahead.
Kellyanne, I knew your mentor, the late Richard Worthland, who was one of the geniuses behind Ronald Reagan. He always did forensic polling. He knew in advance about where it was likely to go. Did you know, going into the last 48 hours, that the buildup for Donald Trump, for your candidate, was as great as we saw realized on that map last night? Did it take hold in a way that maybe even surprised you?
Well, Tom, we saw it percolating anecdotally, and in the data we saw the intensity of his voters. And so they're not just being polite and passive. We knew that they would be there for him on Election Day. And the enthusiasm and the momentum mattered. And if you can quantify it in the polling, I would say it came into questions where we'd match up the people who say they want to take the country in a new and different direction and match them up with folks who had an unfavorable opinion of Hillary Clinton, but also were undecided. And we would try to figure out what issue set would really motivate them to complete the deal. You know, if you go to his rallies, I know many people say that rallies don't matter. They do, because if you stood in line for 5 hours just to be there and to be part of this movement, and you feel like you are a card-carrying member of this movement, then of course you're going to show up and vote, and you're probably going to get other people to do that.
Right.
The other thing I would just say about the polling is, I've said it on the show before, maybe I said it Monday when I was on, but people just aren't modeling the electorate carefully. They're presuming that past is prologue. If you voted for a Democrat in the past, you're going to do that your entire life. And that's just not the case. I mean, we have to give a little bit more credit to people, that they have wisdom and discernment, and they make up their own minds, not just what people they've never met on TV telling them to do.
And, Willie, that's another thing that Jared Kushner had said a couple of days ago. He said they're looking at an old model. These pollsters are looking at a 2012 model. I mean, Jared said this last week. He goes, they don't realize the entire world has changed. They saw.
It's still changing at warp speed.
They saw what no pollster saw, that was paid millions and millions of dollars to take these polls.
Well, clearly the Trump campaign knew something the rest of us didn't know. There was a reason they were in Michigan. There's a reason Hillary Clinton sent the President of the United States there on Monday. It wasn't to shore up a state they had.
And
it was
remember,
a state they were fighting
for going to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right. Kellyanne, it's Willie. I would add my congratulations to you and Donald Trump this morning. As you know now, people are going to be scrutinizing a lot of the things Donald has said now that he's president-elect. One of the things he did say in the October 9th debate was that he was going to appoint a special prosecutor to look into Hillary Clinton. He went on to say, if you'd be in jail if I were president. Is he still looking at a special prosecutor for Hillary Clinton?
We did not discuss that last night since his victory, and he certainly didn't address it with Mrs. Clinton on the phone.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand that,
That would have
but
been
he did
awkward.
say it on a national debate stage. Is that something he's still going to be looking at doing now that he is president-elect?
Well, I would need to discuss that with him, but I think you heard his own words last night, Willie, to the extent that one man can, as president, and certainly Vice President Pence, who's phenomenal, they're looking to unify the country. But we haven't discussed that in recent days, and I think that it's all in good time. And, you know, I think that Donald Trump proved, too, that even amidst a corrupt and rigged system where people are forgotten and don't feel like they can get a fair shot, they somehow can rise up on Election Day and express their voice. And that's really the best way to beat the establishment, best way to beat the elites, is to come out and, in this very equalizing, democratizing fashion, show them who's boss. And I got to tell you something, for those of us on TV or in politics or all of the above, there are just a lot more of them than us. And if I could take one thing away from this and one small piece of unsolicited advice for all of us, for everyone, you've got to listen to the people. Listen less to each other and listen to the people. They have incredible stories. There's a great essential goodness in America. And people are wise, and they care about each other, and they care about this country. And he tapped into that the whole time he was being criticized and dumped on, frankly, by everyone. He was listening to the people.
He really did listen to the how people feel and tap into it, like the strategy or not. Harold.
Kellyanne, Harold Ford, good morning, and again, my congratulations to you in your campaign. It was talked about this morning by Joe and Richard Haas. I was curious, has the president-elect reached out to any foreign leaders, or vice versa? Have any foreign leaders reached out to him since last night?
One or two may have last night, and I expect that those calls will continue to come. That seems pretty standard, and he certainly will welcome those calls, Harold. And I know you heard him last night, as the world did say that he will always, he said to the world community, I will always put America first, but I will be fair. And he very much looks forward to, you know, America's role in the world. But, you know, there are many voters out there that we heard from, frankly, that are disappointed. They always feel like maybe America doesn't always go first, or maybe things can be done differently. And we all know he's on record as saying he's going to make a centerpiece of his presidency defeating radical Islamic terrorism. We don't think of them as our determined enemies, as they were described in a convention speech in July. We think of them as savage murderers who are on the advance and who must be stopped. So he certainly will entertain those calls. I expect they will continue to come. And the first world leader he's going to meet with is President Barack Obama.
So, Kellyanne, before we go, a lot of people say that when you came on board, the campaign was turned around, that this is a lot of you, this result here today. Up until yesterday, I would see you on television, you came on our show, and you called Donald Trump your client. Today, you call him your candidate. Are you glad